So hello and welcome to another interview. My name is Frederick Dunn, and this is The Way to Bee. In today's interview, it's my pleasure to introduce you to the American Beekeeping Federation's American Honey Queen. For 2022, the American Honey Queen is my guest, Lucy Winn. Lucy is joining me from Pennsylvania. Let's get started as I invite Lucy to introduce herself.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My name is Lucy Winn, and I'm the 2022 American Honey Queen. As American Honey Queen, I am the national spokesperson for the beekeeping and honey industry. So I'll travel across the country talking to people about beekeeping.
That's great. And thank you so much for doing this interview. I'm glad to have you on as my guest today. And what part of the country are you in right now, Lucy?
Thank you for having me. I'm currently in Pennsylvania, where I'm at school. I do travel around, but at this current time, I'm just on campus.
Mm-hmm. And what's the school?
I go to DeSales University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And what are you going to be studying there?
I study business and economics.
So that's going to be your major?
It is my major, yes.
So not entomology? What is going on there? Okay. So, we're just going to shoot the breeze and talk a little bit about, first of all, your background. I think it said in one of the write-ups that your family has had honeybees when you were growing up.
Yes, I've been beekeeping since I was 13 years old. We currently have about 7 hives in our backyard where I'm from in central Pennsylvania. And, since that young age, I found a passion for it. I really love beekeeping.
Mm-hmm. So can you remember the first time you got inside a beehive and started to kind of understand what was going on in there?
I can. The first time that I got inside of a beehive, it wasn't the first time that my family had hives. It was the spring, and we had just bought some new bees, and we were going to put them in the hive. And my dad asked for my help, and it was fascinating to me. I couldn't stop taking pictures. I couldn't stop staring at them. And ever since that moment, I've absolutely loved beekeeping and the honeybee.
And when you say you were taking pictures of them, were you using your phone or what were you doing?
I was using my phone. Yeah, I still have those pictures.
Oh, you do? So that's a great memory, right? So the other thing is, would you say that you lived in the country? Did you live in suburbia? Where were you guys located where you had your bees?
I live in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I think that many would consider it a rural area. I grew up in a neighborhood. I didn't have a farm or anything like that, but the area itself is pretty rural.
Mm-hmm.
It is not, sorry, what?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it would be considered suburbia or more country, but I absolutely loved growing up in central Pennsylvania. It was amazing.
So you were allowed to keep bees then? There were no restrictions on agricultural activities like that?
Not where I live now.
Okay, that's good. And so the other thing I wanted to ask you is, well, who mentored you with the bees in the beginning? Would you say it was your dad?
Absolutely. We had joined before beekeeping, it's very important to educate yourself on proper hive practices and things like that. So before we started beekeeping, we joined our local club, the Capital Area Beekeepers Association. And it's something that I encourage everybody to do before they actually purchase their first hive. So my dad was my mentor, as well as my brother and my sister who were beekeeping before I was. However, we did get help from our local associations.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. And so when you first got into the hive, did you have a full bee suit? What were you doing for protection?
I did have a full bee suit. Yes, it's definitely personal preference and how a beekeeper feels comfortable around their bees. Mm-hmm. I still use veil and gloves, heavy pants and boots, just because that's what I like to wear when I'm in the hives. But I wore a full bee suit. I have pink beekeeping gloves that I absolutely love. And yes, I did.
Oh, that's great. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with not wanting to be stung by bees. Do you remember the first time you were stung by a bee?
I don't, no. I'm not allergic to or anything. I don't remember the first time I was stung.
Oh, so you blocked it out of your mind and it'll come back later in therapy somehow?
It's never too bad. You just kind of got to scrape out that stinger. And if you're not allergic or anything like that, it never ends up being too bad of a pain.
Yeah, and the sooner you get that stinger out, the less venom it's going to get into your body. So that's a great tip there too. Were you involved in like county fairs or things like that, 4-H or FFA or anything like that?
I was not involved in any clubs like FFA or 4-H. I unfortunately did not really learn about those clubs until I was kind of out of that age range, but it's something that's so interesting to me. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for kids.
Mhm.
I did, however, attend the Pennsylvania Farm Show every year, and that is really kind of where I fell in love with agriculture and the entire side of Pennsylvania.
Mhm. So when you went to that farm show, what was the exhibit that stuck out the most to you?
At the Pennsylvania Farm Show, the Pennsylvania State Beekeepers Association has a live hive where you could actually see frames of bees along with the queen kind of walking around honeycomb and flying out into a little enclosement that they have. And
Mhm.
that was absolutely fascinating.
So the observation hive, is that Charlie Vorsich that had that hive there?
I'm not entirely sure who brings it every year, but Charlie Borsick is usually at the Pennsylvania Farm Show, yes.
Okay, and his wife Kathy, they're there too.
But yes.
Okay, have they had any part in your program getting involved with the Honeybee Queen program, state or national level?
So I met the Borsicks after I had become Pennsylvania State Honey Queen. They were incredibly welcoming and incredibly helpful. They were hosts of mine when I stayed at the Crawford County Fair.
Mhm.
And they definitely did encourage me to pursue the American Honey Queen program. And I'm so grateful that they did. It's an incredible opportunity. And I'm so excited to be American Honey Queen.
Mhm. And so when you started learning about the Queen program, was that totally new to you? What was your first exposure to that even being a thing?
My first exposure to the Pennsylvania Honey Queen program or the American Honey Queen program in general was probably at the Pennsylvania Farm Show. I had bees at my house and I really enjoyed beekeeping. I really enjoyed going to talks about bees and just, kind of being involved in that. And I met a Pennsylvania Honey Queen at the farm show when they were with the state association. And I really was very interested in the program. I love to meet new people. I loved beekeeping, and it seemed like the perfect match as an opportunity. And I then, when I was Pennsylvania Honey Queen, learned about the American Honey Queen program. And that was such an excitement for me. And it was the ability to, or the option to run for American Honey Queen was a no-brainer in my mind. It is such an honor. I'm so excited to be American Honey Queen. I love to talk about bees. I love to meet new people. And it's something that, combines all of my interests.
Mhm. And that Queen program, that's run by the American Beekeeping Federation?
Yes,
Would you like to explain a little bit about what that is and what they do?
absolutely. The American Beekeeping Federation is an association of beekeepers from all across the country and worldwide that really connects beekeepers, hobbyists, and commercial alike, as well as helps fight for beekeepers' best interests. It really is a connector. There's so many great resources, so many educational opportunities that the American Beekeeping Federation has. I really encourage everybody, whether you're thinking about becoming a beekeeper or you are a beekeeper, to consider joining the American Beekeeping Federation because it really is a great resource.
Mhm. And we'll put, for those that are watching or listening, we'll put links to that down in the description of this video. So that'll be very important for people to follow up on. And they sponsor the program. So are there benefits to being the American Honey Queen, for example? Is there any kind of scholarship or what comes with it?
The American Honey Queen program is a scholarship opportunity, as well as the experience that you're getting throughout the year is incredible. So I think that the benefits of becoming the American Honey Queen are innumerable, but yes, it is a scholarship program.
Mhm. And it's also, people have to know that if they get in that program, they're going to do a lot of public speaking and a lot of visiting and engagement. So if you're super shy and academic, maybe it's not for you, right?
I think that one of the most amazing things about meeting past queens is how different their personalities are. But the ability to public speak and to introduce yourself to all different types of people, that is a quality that I think is important in a person in a spokesperson role. But yeah, I think that if it's something that's very interesting to you, or that beekeeping and is something you're passionate about, it's important to consider, if this is the job for you.
Mm-hmm. Now you made history a little bit, by the way, and that's because you did 2 years as the Pennsylvania State Honey Queen. Do you want to explain how that happened and what that did to your planning and your personal life?
Absolutely. I was the 2020 Pennsylvania State Honey Queen. I was a senior in high school and I loved it. And then when March hit and COVID happened, a lot of the events and promotions that I was going to do got canceled or shut down for quite some time, unfortunately. The Pennsylvania State Beekeepers Association also didn't have a conference where the state queen is usually crowned for the year 2021, as well as I didn't really get to complete my year to the fullness that me as well as the state association had wanted to. So I then came back to be the 2021 Pennsylvania Honey Queen. That happened while I was in my first year at college. And it was such an honor to be asked to come back for a second year. And I was so excited to be able to complete my year a little bit more traditionally. And I was then crowned in January of 2022 to be the American.
Okay, well, that's cool. Well, so now you're in history forever. You're going to be the one. Now there's something else that you've done that I don't know if you're aware of. So I did some research on this program. Do you know when the first honey queen, the American honey queen, was crowned? What year?
1959.
Oh, you are prepared. Okay, so here's the other part of that. Do you know which state has won it the most?
I do not. Can I take a guess?
Sure.
Is it Wisconsin?
Okay, so here's what's cool about it. And by the way, you're a tiebreaker. So I don't know if you knew this.
Really? Not know that.
Yeah, until you came along, it was between Pennsylvania and Texas. They each had 8 national titles for the American Honey Queen. You are the 9th for the state of Pennsylvania, breaking the tie and putting Texas down south.
Wow, that's excellent. Pennsylvania. I think that one of the amazing parts of the program is that it's so, there's so many girls from so many different places, but I did not know that. Thank you for letting me know.
Oh, sure. I do my homework and stuff. So, well, I'm just glad you didn't already know, because then it wouldn't have been any fun to introduce you to that little tidbit. So that's fun too. But the other thing is, one of your missions is really, when I looked it up here, to encourage and empower young women specifically. So yes. What are you doing to reach out to the young women of our country?
I think that it is incredibly important to be a good example for younger women. I think that showing younger women in agriculture, as well as education and any field really, that you can be, a younger woman. I'm 20 years old, and you can give public speaking, you can give information, teach, go across the country, be independent, meet new people. I think that's important to show younger girls and younger women that you can be in this professional position, and you can be in an educational position, and you can do it gracefully.
That's good. That's well said, by the way.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job, Lucy.
Oh, thank you so much.
So here's the thing. Can you tell me By the way, I looked at, there is a YouTube channel for the American Honey Queen,
Yes.
and it only has 487 subscribers. So hopefully we're going to do something about that with this video, because we'll encourage people that are watching to visit that YouTube channel later and the links that go along with that. And there are young women in beekeeping. You might find overall that beekeeping, women are underrepresented in beekeeping, do you think?
I think that, like any industry, beekeeping is constantly changing. It definitely is a more traditional field. But I do see, I've met many women in beekeeping that are so inspiring, and I think that they definitely are inspiring more other younger women to try beekeeping and encouraging them to kind of jump in the program.
And you notice that if you look up women in beekeeping, they are represented heavily in research. So advanced sciences and research and programs like that, academia. But then when we get to the practical end of beekeeping, there are much fewer women out in the commercial beekeeping aspect. Do you have an opinion about why that is?
I do not have an opinion about why that is. I think that I have met many wonderful women in beekeeping. So I don't feel like I can speak on that, simply because as a woman in beekeeping and who has met hundreds of other women in beekeeping, I think that it's changing. The industry is definitely changing, but I also think that it's a pretty close-knit community, and that is something that I personally have noticed.
Do you find that a lot of women come up and specifically congratulate you, thank you for what you're doing, get the word out, you know, about beekeeping in general? And I just thought it was interesting that it specifically named young women instead of just young people in general, you know. So, but
Yeah.
you don't come up with those parameters. So, and you're meeting people from all walks of life. And so who would you say is among the most influential person in beekeeping that you've met since you've received your title, that because of your title you were put in contact with?
That's a fantastic question. I've met so many great beekeepers from all across the country. I think probably I don't think I could name one, simply because everybody that I've met in the beekeeping industry has been so supportive and has taught me so many things about beekeeping across the country, you know, because it varies very differently from where you are. And I don't think I could name a person, simply because they've all been so fantastic to me.
Okay, well, that's a good answer, by the way.
Thank you.
So the other thing is, do you collect beekeeping books? Do you study bees on your own? Is there a favorite author or a favorite book you'd like to recommend that really resonated with you?
I do. I have a lot of beekeeping books and content, and I do love to learn about bees, whether that be through documentaries or YouTube videos or books. But one of my favorite beekeeping books is a book called Queen Spotting.
Yeah.
And it is have you seen that book?
I know Hilary. Yeah.
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 And I think it's great. I used to, before I went to bed, do a queen spotting a night. And I love that book. I still keep it on my bedside table.
That's great that you brought that up. And for those who don't know, that's Hilary Kearney, and she is Girl Next Door Beekeeping in San Diego, California. She also has a blog that's called Beekeeping Like a Girl. So you can check that out too. And you mentioned that, and by the way, that's great that you described that, because the book, the photography is done by Hilary, by the way, and you have these fold outs and you get to find the queen. So it's great exercise for people that are learning about bees. And you'll be amazed at how quickly you improve in spotting the queen on the frame. So that's a very good one. I'm glad that you mentioned that. And you also mentioned that there were documentaries that you like. Is there one that stood out to you?
I don't think one that I could name off of the top of my head that stood out to me, but every time I see one, maybe on Amazon Prime or Netflix, I make a mental note to watch it. But it's funny that you say that you get better at it, because when I was at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, there we had demonstration hives, and the queen had her paint mark had been cleaned off by the workers. And so when I would point out the queen, everybody would ask, how did you find her? And I would go into, the anatomy is different, and she has those attendants of the Queen's Court circling around her. But I really attribute that book to how I could find the queen so easily.
That's cool, because a lot of people say, well, the book doesn't really prepare because they're not moving around. And as you mentioned, there's a retinue of workers that are around the queen all the time. Plus, she kind of leaves a space in her wake as she moves across the frame. So there are, and that's a great feeling, by the way, especially if you're the American honey queen and you're looking at a frame, it validates you. If you go, look, there's the queen right there. And Hilary, in fact, says sometimes she feels it. So she's got this like spiritual connection to where she just felt like she needed to look over. There she is. So that has that happened to you? You feel a spiritual connection?
I'm not sure if I feel a spiritual connection, but I think that's very interesting that she says that. I've like that's
There are a lot of people, by the way, that attribute a certain spiritual awareness when they're around beehives, and they have this connection that they almost can't really describe. I mean, this is a human insect interaction, yet it can overwhelm you a little bit and kind of trap you in being in the presence of honeybees. Have you had any kind of experience like that?
I think that there is something absolutely so special about just being in nature in general, but especially being in the hives. Watching them work, whether it be when you're in the hives working or you're standing outside of an observation hive, there's something incredibly powerful about that. And I think that you can not only see it in beekeepers, but as well as people that are just coming for the rodeo, people that are just coming for the livestock show. They're amazed by looking at bees. And I told you that I went to Sales University. St. Francis de Sales has a whole book about how we should really pay attention to honeybees and how they live, because they all live with such a purpose. And it's so inspiring. And I think that I absolutely do feel a connection to bees. I think many people do. It's great to look at them. It's great to see them in action.
Would you be able to send me a link to that book later, and we can add that to the description of the video here? I think some people may like to look at that.
Absolutely, yes.
Because that's interesting. That's the first I'd heard of that. That's good. So what's your favorite product of bees and why?
That's a great question. I don't think I have a favorite, but I think that honey is a longtime classic. I drink honey every morning in my coffee, and I have a lot of honey sticks that my roommates come. They ask for one about once a day. So I don't have a favorite, but I am the honey queen. So I do love honey.
That is, by the way, that's a cool title to have. Not everybody can walk into a room and say, I'm the American honey queen. and they give them a stick of honey. For those who don't know, they come in little straws that you bite the end off of. And that is funny. Do you get any teasing, or what are your friends and fellow students reacting to you like now that you have that title?
I have gotten so much support from my friends and the staff at my college. I've gotten so many emails asking about the position. My school has been so supportive of me, and as well as my friends have. I feel incredibly honored and to be surrounded by so many people that have been so supportive. But no, I don't get much teasing. I don't put up with any teasing. No, I'm kidding. I haven't really gotten much teasing at all. And even people that I wouldn't expect to be so supportive have come up to me and and told me congratulations or asked me about the program, and it's really nice.
Mm-hmm. So everywhere you go, you wear your tiara and sash just to make sure that people know who you are, just so that there's no question.
No, just promotion. I did tell you that I'm sitting in my school's library. No, just on promotion usually.
Now, when you went to the library today for this interview, did you wear your tiara and everything on your way in, or did you put it on after you got in there?
I put on the tiara. I wore my sash and put on the tiara when I got seated.
That's fun. Okay. Do you have like sweatshirts or anything that has your title on it?
No, I do not.
This is a great opportunity to be like, why, yes, I am the American Honey Queen.
That's a good idea.
This is your chance. This is your chance for everything. Okay, so once you graduate and you get your degree and everything, do you plan to keep bees on your own, or is this kind of going to be a thing of the past, or whenever you visit your parents? What's in the future for beekeeping in you?
I can't imagine beekeeping being a thing in the past for me, ever, really. I love to beekeep. It's what I truly love to do. So I would love to keep bees when I graduate college. Yes.
Good answer. So then you mentioned that honey's your favorite. So what is your favorite floral source for honey?
Man, I also don't have that. I think one of the most fascinating things about honey is the different, functions and the different flavors. So I couldn't tell you that I have a favorite. Yes.
So are you one of those people that can tell the difference between goldenrod and asters and clover just by the taste and smell of it?
I wish. I've seen that in action. I was in Florida and someone brought a jar of honey to a beekeeper and asked, I can't tell what this is. And he told them right away. And that was amazing. But no, that's not a skill I quite yet have. I wish, maybe one day.
Yeah. Have you tasted any spotted lanternfly honeydew honey?
I have.
Can you describe it?
It's kind of bitter and sour. Have you had it before?
Is it did you notice a little smoky kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. The color is so odd. It's unlike anything I've personally ever tasted.
So for those who don't know what that is, maybe you could explain how that's made. Where does honeydew honey come from?
Absolutely. So the spotted lanternfly is a invasive species that is found. It used to be, I think, just on the eastern part of Pennsylvania and is now kind of spreading, which is why it's so important to educate yourself on the spotted lanternfly and make sure that if you see one, you squash it. But it really loves to, when it eats, it secretes this thing called honeydew. And because that food that they ate is sap or it's from apples or grapes, their secretions, honeydew, is sweet. When honeybees find this, they confuse it with nectar, or it has similar properties to nectar from a flower. So they'll use it to make honey. And what it produces is honeydew honey. And it's darker in color. It's almost black looking or grayish. And it tastes smoky or sour. And yes, some beekeepers have been finding it in their hives, which is interesting. But I think that it's fantastic news that we know, where it's coming from. And, we're being more educated on the spotted lanternfly every day, which is another great thing.
Yeah, and they're actually using beekeepers who have it in their honey as an indicator that the spotted lanternfly has made it into their geolocation. So it's kind of a good tool for the researchers. What bad experiences, if any, have you had with any stinging insects?
Any stinging insects? I really don't think I've had many bad experiences with many stinging insects. I've never been stung by a wasp or anything like that.
Well,
Um,
okay. Never.
Stinging's being stung is not fun.
Yeah.
So
Well, and now with your title, you won't be stung wherever you go. They'll just move out of the way. Everything.
I hope I,
So let's see, what else do we have? So you did say there is some scholarship potential. Did you benefit from any of that, or will you?
I've not received my scholarship. It is rewarded at the end of the year.
Mhm.
But scholarship aside, I'm just excited to be the American Honey Queen.
It's a great title to have. It's good
Thank you.
good for your resume. So now there's young people watching the video, or their parents are watching, and they want to know, how do we get started on the track to become are there county level honey queens, or is state the first level? Like, how do they find out about this program if they're young and thinking ahead?
State is the first level in Pennsylvania. I'd love to get back to you on whether or not that's the truth in every state that offers a Honey Queen program.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if you're a young woman interested in bees, interested in the honey industry, and interested in becoming a honey queen, I highly encourage you to get in contact with your state beekeepers association and learn if there is a honey queen program in your area. And if not, maybe look into starting one for yourself. It's a fantastic opportunity, and it's really a great experience. I would encourage everybody to look into it.
Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people think that it just sounds like it might be fun, but you're in college right now. So that must be demanding for your schedule. Like, when you have to start, are you on spring break right now, by the way?
No.
You're not?
No.
Okay. So your commitments, how demanding is that on your schedule for the year?
It is definitely a practice in time management, but it is well worth it for me.
Okay. And then when does this end for you? How long do you have to hold the title, and when do you pass it on?
I will pass on my title at the American Beekeeping Federation convention in Jacksonville, Florida, the first week in January of 2023.
Mm-hmm. Is it always in Jacksonville, Florida?
It is not. I was crowned in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Las Vegas?
Yes.
Was that your first time in Las Vegas?
It was my first time in Las Vegas. It was incredible.
Is it exactly the way you thought it would be, based on seeing it on TV and things like that?
It was pretty accurate to what I thought it would be. It was otherworldly, really.
Otherworldly. That's
Yes.
interesting. Well, do you have so just free form, whatever you'd like to say? Do you have a closing statement, words of encouragement? What would you like to share with people that are watching or listening?
Absolutely. I would just like to thank everybody for having me. So it was great to talk to everybody, and it was great to be here. I'd really just like to emphasize the vital role that honeybees play in pollination. A third of the food that we eat requires pollination, and 80% of those pollinators are honeybees. So it's incredibly important to learn about honeybees and to do what we can to help protect them.
Well, that leaves me, I'm not going to let you off the hook then right there. What can they do? What can they do to help protect the honeybees?
I think that a fantastic way to support the honeybees is by supporting your local beekeeper. And you can do that by purchasing products of the hive, such as wax, honeycomb, honey, and pollen from your local beekeeper. Mm-hmm. Maybe rather than a grocery store. I know that there's a lot of beekeepers that sell at farmers markets and things like that. And it's a great way to help support the honeybee.
That's a good answer. So know the source of your honey and bee products and make sure that it is local. It's almost the only way anymore that we can guarantee that the honey that you're getting even comes from bees.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Great job. Well, thank you for being with me and doing this interview, Lucy. I really appreciated it. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your reign.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Well, that's it for today.
I want to thank Lucy again for sharing her experiences as a beekeeper and serving as the American Honey Queen. I invite you to visit the video description section where you'll find links that are related to today's interview. It's my hope that you'll encourage young beekeepers in your neck of the woods to become involved in serving as honeybee ambassadors. Thank you for spending some of your time with me today. Please subscribe. There are more interviews coming up very soon. Have a great day.